a patient suddenly develops weakness on one side of the body. Is it a stroke? Is it a TIA? Which artery is involved? And most importantly, how do we localize the lesion before jumping to the CT scan? In this video, we'll apply the localization approach from our previous lecture to understand stroke and TIA, step by step. Before we localize the artery, we need to clear one basic confusion. Stroke and TIA can look very similar at the start. In stroke, the blood supply is interrupted long enough to cause actual brain tissue injury, an infarction. In TIA, or transient ischemic attack, the symptoms are temporary. The patient may recover completely, but clinically, it is still a warning sign. Remember, TIA is not benign. It is a red flag for future stroke. The important point is that stroke and TIA are localized in the same way. The symptom pattern still tells us which vascular territory is involved. Now, let's build the vascular map. Before asking which exact artery is involved, we first need to understand the basic blood supply of the brain. Because in stroke localization, we move step by step. First, symptoms, then circulation, and then the specific artery. Brain circulation is divided into two main blood supply systems, anterior circulation and posterior circulation. Let's start with the anterior circulation. Anterior circulation mainly comes from the internal carotid arteries. It supplies the front and middle parts of the cerebral hemispheres. Clinically, the two major arteries we care about here are the anterior cerebral artery and the middle cerebral artery. The first one is the anterior cerebral artery, or ACA. The anterior cerebral artery is a branch of the internal carotid system. It supplies the medial frontal and parietal areas of the brain. Clinically, this is important because the leg area of the motor and sensory cortex lies more medially. So if a patient has weakness or sensory loss mainly affecting the opposite leg, think about the anterior cerebral artery territory. In simple words, ACA means leg area. The second major artery is the middle cerebral artery, or MCA. The middle cerebral artery is also a branch of the internal carotid system. It supplies the lateral surface of the cerebral hemisphere, including areas for the face, arm, and language. That is why middle cerebral artery stroke commonly presents with opposite face and arm weakness more than leg weakness. If the dominant hemisphere, usually the left hemisphere, is involved, the patient may also develop aphasia, meaning difficulty with language. So remember, MCA means face, arm, and speech. Now we move to the posterior circulation. Posterior circulation begins from the vertebral arteries. The right and left vertebral arteries travel upward and join together to form the basilar artery. This vertebro-basilar system supplies very important structures, especially the brainstem, cerebellum, and posterior parts of the brain. So posterior circulation strokes often present differently from anterior circulation strokes. The major artery we need to remember here is the posterior cerebral artery, or PCA. The posterior cerebral artery is a terminal branch of the basilar artery. It mainly supplies the occipital lobe, where the visual cortex is located. It also supplies part of the inferior temporal region. So clinically, posterior cerebral artery involvement commonly produces visual field defects. In simple words, PCA is strongly linked with vision. Now let's summarize the map. Anterior cerebral artery, or ACA, supplies the medial frontal and parietal surface. Clinically, think leg area. Middle cerebral artery, or MCA, supplies the lateral hemisphere. Clinically, think face, arm, and speech. Posterior cerebral artery, or PCA, supplies the occipital lobe. Clinically, think vision. And the vertebrobasilar system supplies the brainstem and cerebellum. Clinically, think balance, coordination, cranial nerve signs, and brainstem symptoms. So the first question in stroke localization is not immediately which artery is involved. The first question is this an anterior circulation problem or a posterior circulation problem? Once you decide the circulation, then you can narrow it down to the specific artery. Here is a simple memory trick. ACA, A for ankle, think leg area. MCA, M for mouth and movement of the arm, think face, arm, and speech. PCA, P for picture, think vision. Vertebrobasilar, V for vital brainstem and balance. Think brainstem, cerebellum, swallowing difficulty, double vision, and coordination. So localize the symptom first, then think of the artery. Now let's test this vascular map with quick active recall. A patient presents with sudden weakness, mainly affecting the right leg. Which artery is most likely involved? Left anterior cerebral artery. Right leg weakness mainly. Left ACA. Now, weakness of the right face and right arm with difficulty speaking. Which artery is most likely involved? Left middle cerebral artery. Face, arm, and speech? Think MCA. Now, sudden loss of vision in one side of the visual field. Which artery should come to your mind? Posterior cerebral artery. Vision? Think PCA. Now, vertigo, double vision, difficulty swallowing, and ataxia. Is this anterior circulation or posterior circulation? Posterior circulation. Brainstem and cerebellar signs? Think vertebrobasilar system. So this is how the vascular map becomes clinically useful. But in real life, when a suspected stroke patient reaches the emergency room, we do not stop at localization. We handle it as an emergency. The approach should be fast, focused, and organized. First, recognize that this is a time-sensitive condition. The most important first question is, when was the patient last known well? This means, when was the patient last seen normal, before symptoms started? This single question decides whether the patient may still be within the treatment window for reperfusion therapy. At the same time, assess airway, breathing, and circulation. Check oxygen saturation, pulse, blood pressure, temperature, and level of consciousness. If the patient is unstable, stabilize first. If the patient is stable, activate the stroke pathway or call the stroke team early. Now screen the patient quickly. Outside the hospital, FAST is commonly used. F means face drooping. A means arm weakness. S means speech difficulty. T means time to call emergency help. In the emergency department, a validated stroke assessment tool can be used, and stroke severity is commonly assessed with the NIHSS, the National Institutes of Health Stroke Scale. But before labeling it as stroke, always check blood glucose. This is very important because hypoglycemia can mimic stroke. So in a real ER approach, glucose is checked early. Then, think about stroke mimics. Could this be seizure? Could this be hypoglycemia? Could this be migraine? Could this be syncope, infection, drug effect, or metabolic disturbance? But remember, while considering mimics, do not delay urgent stroke imaging if the clinical picture suggests stroke. Now, move to investigations. The first key investigation is urgent brain imaging. A non-contrast CT brain is commonly used first because it helps rule out intracranial hemorrhage. This is important because ischemic stroke and hemorrhagic stroke can look similar clinically, but their treatment is very different. If available and indicated, CT angiography is added to look for large vessel occlusion. This is especially important when mechanical thrombectomy may be considered. MRI, especially diffusion-weighted imaging, can be useful in selected cases, especially when CT is not enough or when symptoms are subtle, but availability and timing matter. Along with imaging, send basic blood investigations. These include random blood glucose, complete blood count, electrolytes, renal function, coagulation profile, and other tests according to the clinical situation. Do an ECG as well, because atrial fibrillation is an important cause of embolic stroke. Cardiac monitoring is also important in many patients. So the ER flow is recognize stroke symptoms, ask last known well time, assess ABC, check vitals and glucose, call stroke team, perform focused neurological examination, send bloods, get urgent brain imaging. Then decide treatment according to imaging and eligibility. Now, management depends on the type of stroke. If CT shows hemorrhage, do not give thrombolysis or antiplatelet treatment. The focus becomes blood pressure control, reversal of anticoagulation if needed, neurosurgical or stroke specialist input, and supportive care. If imaging supports ischemic stroke, then the team checks whether the patient is eligible for reperfusion therapy. This may include intravenous thrombolysis in eligible patients within the appropriate time window. It may also include mechanical thrombectomy in selected patients with large vessel occlusion. If reperfusion therapy is not suitable, treatment still continues. The patient may need antiplatelet therapy when hemorrhage has been excluded, stroke unit care, swallowing assessment, DVT prevention, hydration, glucose and temperature control, and secondary prevention planning. Also, remember one important safety point. Do not give anything orally until swallowing is assessed. Stroke patients can have dysphagia, and aspiration can worsen outcome. So the key message is this. Localization helps us suspect the vascular territory, but emergency assessment and imaging decide the safe treatment. Now, the most important takeaway is this. In stroke and TIA, do not jump directly to the artery. First, recognize the symptom pattern. Then decide whether it is anterior or posterior circulation. Then narrow it down to the artery. But in the emergency room, localization is only the beginning. Time is brain. Check glucose, image urgently, and treat according to stroke type and eligibility. In the next video, we'll continue this clinical approach with seizure versus syncope versus stroke mimics, because not every sudden neurological event is a stroke.